Hi Gemini, welcome to your November 2019 Astro Update. It's Raina here. If I sound kind of like I'm speaking quietly, it's because it's late at night. So I hope that this will be able to, be received. But anyway, in looking at the general trends of November for you, it looks like a month that's going to be very concentrated on the work sector, and that is the sixth house. The sixth house is the house that is ruled by Virgo, and it deals with your work on a daily basis, and that also includes your schedule, your, how you organize your time, and your service to others. If you're not employed, if you're retired, for instance, or even if you're in between jobs, you could still be doing volunteer work, and that would be covered here as well. And it's also your health, and it is pets. So that does play a big role for certain people, and sometimes they combine volunteering with pets. So there you go with, volunteering in an animal shelter or something. So as the month begins, we have just undergone a Mercury retrograde on Halloween. And so the month begins with that Mercury retrograde. And this is going to be in that sixth house for you. So if you have been waiting on some kind of a job offer, or perhaps you're supposed to start at a particular company and you still haven't gotten the green light, it might be delayed even further. Mercury will be in retrograde until the 20th, so that's just several weeks. Nothing to see here. It's not going to be that big of a deal. But Mercury does rule that house under the sign of Virgo, and this is your ruler, because you're also ruled by Mercury. So Mercury's whereabouts are significant for you. They matter maybe more than most signs. And so Mercury retrograde can also be something about diet, like going back, researching what kind of foods you want to eat, what kind of diet you want to eat. You may be particularly concerned or interested. When I say concerned, I don't mean in a bad way, but interested in your health and perhaps researching it. Mercury retrograde is supposed to be a great time for research. Well, this would be of the health variety, unless you're researching a particular company, I guess. And the sun is going to be in this sector until the 22nd of November, and this means that you're like kind of all about business. You're serious. Gemini tends to be quite will-o'-the-wisp. Is that like an old saying? Or just kind of fun, outgoing, and easygoing. And this makes you much more into your discipline, your routines. There may be a purpose. Maybe you are seriously thinking about changing your life in some way. You will have a full moon in your sign in December, and perhaps a part of you senses that something is coming to an end, and you're trying to kind of, assist it along with changes in your routine. Sixth house is your daily routine. So you may be really focusing on that at this time. But the sun can make you morph into whatever house it's in. In this case, it's like you turn into a Virgo. And even though you and Virgo are both ruled by Mercury, you do express it in different ways. Virgo is an earth sign, so it's much more grounded and practical, and you're more into, knowledge for the sake of knowledge. It's not important for you to apply it practically. It's just that you enjoy the act of satisfying your curiosity and learning something new. On the first of the month, I'm not trying to go backwards. It's actually the Mercury retrograde and the Sun, both in the 8th house, are there as the month begins themselves. But Venus goes into Sag on November 1st, and this is the opposite house, the 7th house. Sag is your opposite sign. So Venus in the 7th house is good for committed partnerships or any kind of legal matter or other types of partnerships that you're engaging in. Venus can bring harmony. Venus can even bring money. So if you are gaining clients, clients can represent the 7th house, one-on-one interactions, in other words. Venus can, help you to attract these people in whatever way you have decided to go about it. On the 12th, we have a full moon at 19 degrees of Taurus. This is the 12th house. Now, that might be also you ending something in your life. The 12th house is the final house, the final chapter in an old cycle. So you may be ending an addiction, ending a self-defeating pattern, gaining insight into your tendencies or repressed memories, or having psychic experiences, dreams, premonitions that inform you at a deep level. This can bring out secrets in some cases, depending on the individual. On the 19th, we have Mars going into Scorpio, that 6th house, and this can even bring a physicality to your health routines or your daily routines. You may feel just that urge to work out. And, the two houses that I would associate with health in a roundabout way, the first house, because it's the house of the body. And so if you had Mars in that house, I'd say the same thing. But in the 6th house, it's a real connection to the health. In the first house, it might just be that you want to move for the sake of moving. But in the 6th house, there might be a general or a specific concern. Well, not concern, but concerted effort. Mars in the 6th house can also relate to conflict in the workplace. So an example would be you have Mercury retrograding in this house, and Mercury goes direct the next day, but something can come out that kind of creates some conflict, although it would have to be, it would have to, this is the thing that I'm kind of a little bit hesitant of making a big deal about that, because Mercury goes direct the next day. However, Mercury will still be in its shadow for a bit, so it might still be that Mercury is in play as, semi retrograding, even though it's direct, because it still hasn't come back up to speed. The bottom line is that when Mars goes into the 6th house and Mercury is retrograde, or maybe still in its shadow, the tendency for there to be misunderstandings in the workplace can lead to conflict. It could be that you're just working overtime, and so the physicality that Mars is associated with, the exertion, the energy, that physical energy that is exerted may show up as you working overtime when Mars is in the 6th house. On the 20th, Mercury goes direct in that house, so there's some resolution of some matter. Maybe there was even some kind of a pay dispute, like you wanting to get a raise and them having to think about it and things like that. And maybe you've been, you were waiting and you just got impatient and you blew up, and it was just kind of, it blew over, but there was a little kerfluffle. Or was it isn't that kerfluffle? I don't know. On the 22nd, the sun goes into Sagittarius, which is the 7th house. The energy generally lightens up. When you have the sun in Scorpio, things are going to be intense, let's face it. So now the sun is in your 7th house, and this is great for partnerships. There's that sense of vitality being injected into relationships and maybe romance even. On the 25th, Venus goes into Capricorn. That's your 8th house. This can be good for any matter that involves, gaining money through other people. This could even be a spouse getting a raise. This could be you getting an inheritance. This can be, taking your relationship with your partner to the next level. Very intimate, very raw, maybe very deep, that you're diving with your partner. On the 26th, there's a new moon at 4 degrees of Sagittarius, the 7th house. Because this is at a very early degree of Sag, if you are born after that 4-degree mark, or around, you would know, if you know your chart, you'd know what degree you are, but approximately around the 26th to 27th of November, depending on what year it is, your new moon is actually going to be in the 6th house, so that could be, work-related issues. If your new moon is in the 7th house, that could be a new era in your marriage or committed partnership. It can also be a new development for any kind of a legal matter. If it's happening in your 6th house, then it could be having a new job or devising a new routine for yourself, bringing a new pet into your life. On the 27th, Neptune goes direct in Pisces, the sign that it rules. Neptune has been in Pisces since 2011, and this is your 10th house of career and public reputation. Gemini, you may have felt quite confused about your identity, and for some reason. The 10th house can be your place in the world. Maybe you've had, maybe you're middle-aged and somehow your career was phased out due to technological advances, or, similar vein where there's some kind of like, what is that word that makes something obsolete, I can't think of the term I'm looking for, but the type of developments that make a person's occupation obsolete. And that may have thrown you for a loop, especially if you've been doing it for a long time and you really identify with that. and you have to rediscover yourself, reinvent yourself. I think that Geminis can do this. It's like a challenge you're willing to take on. I think one of the biggest problems with Gemini, when they're when they feel like it's important for them to have a reputation, which, I don't really think that's true. I think that's the worldly way to think. But if there are some Geminis who feel that way, I think the real question is, who are you trying to impress? Who do you need to think of you in a certain way when it comes to your work life or your personal life? So it's not really a necessity. And when Neptune was retrograde, you may have discovered the truth about your career, or maybe the way that you appear to others in terms of your professional life and just, your reputation. And it was very disappointing, and maybe even created a sense of inferiority. And now that Neptune is going direct, you can, stop. I don't know how it manifested for you, but if there was a tendency to kind of maybe feel disillusioned by the progress of your career, now that Neptune is direct, you might feel more hopeful. And that makes sense. But, so I hope that you enjoyed this, Gemini. If you'd like a private reading, my website is RenaMoonAstrology.com, and I have a really old, oh gosh, it's late at night, and it's funny, I was kind of like falling asleep while I was saying that, and I was saying like kind of nonsense. But what I wanted to say kind of woke up as I was coming out of that state. I've done that several times when I've done these types of readings. It's kind of funny. I have a new reading that I'm offering where I combine full-length natal chart and full-length tarot readings, and a special tarot reading that is going to cover all the 12 houses. So if you're interested in checking that reading out, as well as other types of personal readings I offer, please follow the link below. Have a great month. Take care. Bye.